Ladies and gentlemen, and other people as they identify, welcome to Hot Dad's Podcast. Wow, we started out so lib cuck. Did you like that?
I did. Impressive.
Amazing.
Very inclusive.
Yeah, just trying to stay relevant, not get canceled.
It's a challenge.
I am your only host today, Maria Heinegg, MariaHeinegg. You can find me on the internets with that spelling pretty much everywhere. My co-host, Gracie, is not here this week. She had to go be a bad bitch anonymous in Philly and do some stuff.
Gotcha.
So she is out. So it's going to be all me and then our lovely guest, hilarious comedian, Sarah Tollemache. Yay! Oh, I forgot to plug. You can find us at Hot Dads Pod on Instagram, and you can email us at hotdadspod@gmail.com if you have any complaints or dick pics that you want to send along. Okay. Perfect. Sarah, please tell them where they can find you on the internet.
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, all of them. I don't even know what the Twitter. No one's really on Twitter anymore.
I know.
It feels like
it's a dying.
Although it's my go-to social media to read while I'm on the train.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I still like throwing out jokes, but it's all the same. Tollemache.
Okay.
Yeah. You just
spell it.
Stollemmache.
Yep, that's correct.
That's it. I had to think about it.
You were like looking at me for approval.
Yeah.
Like, is that how I spell my name?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So I want to start out only because Andrea, plug to producer Andrea Allen. Bow, bow, bow. Check out her podcast. One is called Dog Pig, and the other one is called Respectfully, where they just make fun of people and their lifestyle choices.
Just saying respectfully first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like they have one on like polyamory and like ethical non-monogamy,
Gotcha.
which we were talking about on the last podcast, and just how like gross all the men in those communities are.
I know. I'm just not evolved enough to particicate with my little brain.
Yeah. Sarah's just like, she's so regressive, you know. she's an alt-right, like traditionally heteronormative married woman.
Yeah. That's probably, it's boring. Meat and potatoes.
You're just the original Candace Owens. You know?
Yeah.
But speaking of Candace Owens, something I'm sure she would be an exciting topic is, you know, you used to do your brimstone and hellfire career for three months when you were 21 years old.
Oh, yeah.
We saw in another podcast, so we're going to steal the content. Fuck you, Stavros.
That's fine.
About you were a stripper for a very short time in your burgeoning young adulthood.
Yeah, I think I was right out of high school, the summer after high school. So that fall I started. And from like fall to Christmas.
Oh, wait. So you had to be like 18 then, not 21.
I was 18, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was a virgin too, which is so
virgin
wild.
Stripper?
Yeah, and I didn't even think of that as like a great selling point.
Oh, man. That's how you know you weren't cut out for it.
I know.
Because you weren't like, I'm a virgin.
Yeah, I didn't know how to market myself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, sales.
Yeah, it's not like I'm always like, I'm an ex-stripper, because it was just like, I put it in the category of just part of my drinking and drugging days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's something you tried out.
I tried out. Well, I was told I was going to community college, and I had a few girlfriends that were doing it, and they were making like $800 a night.
Which is a lot of money then.
I will tell you, the girls that were doing it were made to do it. They just had the personality for it.
And how did you ingratiate yourself in this particular friend group? Like, you guys were all going to community college together?
Yes. And one I've known for high school. I've known her for years, since like elementary school. So she's always been in the circle. And then you're like, well, I want to make tons of money and not have to
do that much. You thought?
I just sounded really easy to me. And then when I got there, you know, like you start doing it. First of all, you're just really nervous because it's like you go straight from high school to doing that. And I've never really had
seamless transition.
I've never had a job that like transitioned me into it. Beforehand, I would just work at a snow cone stand. That was my high school to summer job.
You went
after
from snow cone to stripper. That's an incredible transition.
Exactly. And then once I got there, I just realized it's a hustle, and I am not a hustle girl.
Yeah, which is funny because like in stand-up, you really do have to hustle, but it's a different type
which
of hustle.
I feel like that is partly probably why my career isn't exactly where I want it to be, because that is that skill set from stripping, I think, could parlay quite nicely.
Being a businessy business person, like you want to just think it's a meritocracy, in which case we would both be, the top comedians in the world. Oh, just like a single tear falls down your face.
No, it never is. It's all about like hard work and luck.
Yeah. But I also think it's about like business savvy because like you do not have to be the funniest person at all and be such a big comic. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? And also connections. Like,
yes, that helps a whole bunch. It was just like, and you have to be personable. Like, and I also think that's another thing that's always held me back is that I'm only friends with you if we've been in the same location for 8 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's organic. So I don't, and I think the people that do really well are the ones that innately make you feel like you've been friends for years. That have that relaxed sensibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't have that
with me.
In general, my social circle is quite small because I feel like I can only give myself to a small group
so
of
many people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more of a social butterfly. Like I love seeing people that I like, and I think it's not that hard to like most people, at least at a surface level. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you don't have to like dig in with them or something like that.
Yeah, there's just like there's tiers. You'll find that out like sometimes when I got married, then all of a sudden you're like, I have categories of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then some you're like, you know what? I actually think this person's closer in my life than this person.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And it's not necessarily who you would guess.
Exactly. If you're going down writing like a friend inventory, you're like, I think this person's my best friend.
Cue to you and me.
Surprise,
like a week from today, you just like text me, you're like, you're my best friend.
I know.
Why are we laughing at this?
I know, because it's true.
Oh my God.
No, yeah, all that social stuff is just like fascinating. Like I always get weirded out. Like my mom's been going to the same hairdresser for like 50 years, but they're not close. But you're like, that's your closest relationship.
Yeah. That person knows. That's so crazy to me because like I talk the whole time with my hair lady, and my hair lady, like I consider her a real friend. Like we used to go to the same gym, and then I found out she did hair and blah blah whatever.
Yeah.
So we like fully catch up. Like we'll talk about sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
they're your buddy.
Yeah, for sure.
I went on a trip with mine.
What?
Yeah, I knew her first, like you did, and then she did hair. And then we were close, and then we just went to Costa Rica.
That's awesome.
Yes. And then I'm about to hang out with her again in Colorado next week.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. But it's like, I also think about that with your bodega guy.
Sure.
I see them twice a day. And
I've been to, Costa Rica with my bodega guy, so it's 1-to-1. That's what a coincidence.
I would love that. You're like, why don't you just invite your bodega guy to the wedding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know.
I feel like bodega guys are always short. Do you ever... Like I know the one that I go to now and the old one I used to go to, which is just like in Deep Park Slope. Like they're both Yemenis, and I think Yemen men are short.
Mine was Yemen.
Yeah, so maybe that's what the deal is. But I love like all my bodega guys in my current one, except for the tall one, which is funny. Or I don't actually dislike him, but he made me. This is so boring, but who cares? He made me. I get like a honey turkey, cheddar cheese, lettuce, and then hot mustard, and then pickles. And I said hot mustard, and he put chipotle sauce on it. And I was like, I don't think I can ever trust again.
That's a totally different flavor base.
He's like, you said hot mustard, and I'm like, that's not mustard, and also it's not spicy.
No, it's almost like he should have just blown cigarette smoke onto your sandwich, because that's what chipotle tastes like.
I hate chipotle sauce.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
But I have such like a food waste thing that I just asked for a bunch of napkins and just like wiped it off and ate it anyway, and then I couldn't eat another sandwich for like 6 months from a bodega.
Absolutely,
because I was so traumatized.
Yeah. Oh, that's like so relatable. Just like, I'll just endure this instead of speaking up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely a woman thing too.
I know.
Like, I'm fine.
Yes. Yeah. I'd rather just like eat the meal I didn't want than have them go back and do an ordeal about it.
He offered to make me a new one too, and I was like, no.
These ingredients are so cheap anyway.
Yeah, I should have just said, fuck it, the world's burning.
Yeah. But that's what I've been doing a lot lately. It's just accepting that the world is burning and then just live your
littering.
life the way you just littering. At least biodegradable stuff.
Yeah.
Like banana peels.
Well, I mean, to me, that doesn't even count.
It's fertilizer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which I know we're making a lot of to prepare for the apocalypse, you and me.
Yeah, that is true.
I love how we somehow got from the beginning of like your stripper story to bodega sandwiches.
Yeah, we derailed, which is
now we're
what
talking
I do.
about Greta Thunberg.
Yes. No, I know. Well, like, I guess if we go back to the stripper stuff, it was just...
You got in there and you realized how much harder it was than you thought.
It was hard. It was harder. You have to like... I thought you made... Because it's like you only see it in the movies.
Right.
So you assume that you make your money by just dancing on stage and it's all like the singles that you're getting.
Yeah.
It's not. It's you make your money by doing lap dances. Those are at the time at least $20.
Mm-hmm.
And so songs only last 3 minutes. So you want to you'll make all the strippers upset if you do long songs.
Okay.
Because you're not turning and burning.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Well, but you don't get to pick the songs,
You
do.
do.
Oh.
You pick whenever you go on stage, you tell the DJ you get 2 songs.
I thought you meant the songs for the lap dance. You mean the songs.
Well, you're playing off the other stripper songs that they chose while they're on stage.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, which is kind of weird that there should actually just be a straightforward stripper playlist.
Right.
Because some strippers can really go left field.
Sure.
Yeah. And so
they're just playing Coldplay.
No, or like I always joke that I would pick like Inagata DeVita with the 7-minute drum solo.
Did you just play Fish? It's like a 26-minute song.
They're like, how are we supposed to make money if we're doing 26-minute songs? So I learned that. That was a lesson I learned.
You gotta turn and burn, baby.
And then the way to get lap dances is that you had to be very personable. Like a lot of like, hey, do you guys want company?
Yeah.
And so you're getting...
You gotta walk right up like
you
just
do.
Shameless.
And I would get stressed. I would start like walking around like with an energy of like, do you want me to sit here? Like, you know what I mean? Like instead of playing the game, I'd be like... I'm gonna go try this table. Like you have to make it seem
natural,
effortless. Like, hey baby,
yeah,
are you guys lonely? Like using terminology like that. And that so then you have to like, I remember one guy was a entrepreneur. They're all entrepreneurs.
Works part-time at a Jiffy Lube.
He was really nice. I remember I only had like, I never got a lot of, I guess you'd call it clients.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember him being really nice.
Which is so weird because you were so natural at it.
I know. I had no return customers.
They were like, I got everything I wanted out of that.
I know. It's yeah, so you have to be like, oh my God, I've always wanted to start my own business. That must have been so hard for you. So you have to play into like, I guess the male ego, the reason why they're there is to feel loved or appreciated. I think that plays a big part in it.
And like they're the big bad man.
Yes. And then you get guys that want to feel powerful, I guess. So they try to get as many girls over. It's like statusy. And then there'd be like, if you could try to get into the private room. Mm-hmm. And you'd always hear rumors that would be like the hand job area. Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah. And, but those you could make, that's where you're making your more money per night. I'm only talking about stuff like it was 25 years ago. So I don't know what that culture's like anymore, if it's changed.
I had a friend in college who stripped and she said that her boundaries were kind of like loose. Like she wasn't giving hand jobs, but like if he wanted to make out and she thought that he was cute, like she would make out and you get extra money for it and whatever. And it's like, I mean, the fact that all of it's illegal is just kind of like hilarious. It's like, what difference does it make?
Well, especially in the champagne room is what they called it. It was just...
Shout out Chris Rock.
Yeah. I think it would be considered... Like, they always had bodyguards, so it's up to the girl to call out her boundaries
Be
there. Like it is
go away.
illegal to do. You're not really supposed to be that close.
Yeah.
I think at the time there was a rule that got instilled. It was the 5 foot or 3 foot rule
And this is in Texas or this is here?
in Texas.
Okay. That's surprising. I would think in Texas they'd be like, he can be inside of you as long as you don't make eye contact.
If you're dealing with alcohol, then they change the rules. So if you went to, there were clubs that was BYOB, so they had no liquor license. That would be full nudity, and that was contact.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those were a little bit different. But most strippers didn't want to work. They were considered classless.
Right. Because if it's BYOB, like they're getting like wasty faced. Not that you can't do that at like a regular strip club, but like I would imagine the standards for all of it were lower.
Well, you're getting a particular kind of guy, a cheap guy that doesn't want to pay the liquor prices.
Yeah.
So those clubs always had like a stigma, kind of like if it like where we worked was Treasures and Rick's, and those were the high end.
Okay.
Like gentlemen's clubs.
Treasures.
Yes. And Houston
which is what you were.
Yeah. Which I was a nightmare too during that time because I was really into. It's wild because it's considered the date rape drug, but we were taking it recreationally on our own voluntarily. Rohypnol, yeah.
Oh my God. Look at you. You're a badass bitch.
Well, you would go in a brownout. It's like the same as people do now. Is it just like taking like relaxers?
Muscle relaxers?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so weird.
So
I've taken those for like, actual back pain.
Yeah.
But never enough that like.
With alcohol?
No.
Because it'll exemplify it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Amplify
like Klonopins.
Amplify it.
Yeah, amplify it.
Exemplify.
Yeah. I just want to put Plafly on it. So yeah, we were doing it recreationally. So I would get so fucked up. Like I remember putting my dress back on and not realizing I had put both of my straps onto one side. And just like talking to some dudes, and just my friend would be like, "Sir, what is going on with you right now?" The other one that was wild, I got kicked out. They were like, "You can't be in here because it's just a liability."
Yeah.
You're supposed to go. They call you for the stage, and you're supposed to come out from the stage from the curtain.
Oh, you just climbed on
I
the
just
stage.
climbed over the stage lights. And I wasn't even dancing. It was more like, I don't know where I'm at right now. So it was just like a girl like with a blank stare on her face.
I can't even imagine this Sarah, because the time that I've known you has like nothing to do with that at all.
Oh, it was what I have moments. You're not in a complete blackout. All you remember are just blips.
Yeah.
And I remember the security guard being like, "Yeah, you just need to leave." He was really nice, and I went.
Yeah.
I got it. And my friend went with me too. Like, I'll take care of her. And that was pretty much like, that was the end of it. I had an intervention shortly after that.
You climbed over stage lights, and they were like, "Sarah, you're done."
Well, it's embarrassing to get kicked out of it will get kicked out of your job. Like any job.
Yeah.
For being like blackout.
But I mean, that's also like, if there's anywhere you're going to get kicked out of your job for like having too much fun, but then still be able to come back the next day. Like,
yeah, they would have let me come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I wasn't the worst thing they've seen.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
There had to be like strippers with guns on coke that you're just like, this is terrifying.
Yeah. Or like just weird energy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that is weird, but I think it was more of like, this bitch is just too drunk and silly, like goofball. Like, this is just a problem. Because like, we're Ricks, and we don't run like that. Like, well, and you're like trying to be classy.
And you're a liability, right? Like, you could go in a back room and not remember anything, and then that's
you're just putting yourself in dangerous situations. Also, you kind of like, the way I drink, sometimes you think you're being funny, but you're actually just being like horrifically rude. Which is generally my humor, and like anyway, but when you're sober, you can figure out the room temperature. Yeah. I'm just coming in hot with strangers thinking that they're going to be like, "I like her. She's feisty." But you're like, "You're just a bitch."
You're like, "You just called me a fucking loser."
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot of stuff like that. So
That's so funny.
But the other thing too, this is what I also realized, because I would get a lot of comments, people being like, "Oh, a lot of people think that you feel so powerful being a stripper because I guess you're harnessing your sexual energy for financial." But you're not at all. You don't have any power.
Insecure the whole time.
You're insecure. And then like an example I would give, you would get really, really wealthy men that would come in and they would have such disregard for you.
Yeah.
I had a friend, they invited her over, and when she tried to sit down, they pulled the seat out from underneath her. So she just fell. So they are there to embarrass you.
Yeah.
And it's something that they would get off to.
Did the security guard come over?
I don't think so. Well, because these guys are paying like a shit ton of money.
Well, but she probably could have gotten them kicked out if she was like, they just knocked me out of a chair. Because that's assault.
I know, but at that time, this is like years ago, and that wasn't our mindset.
Oh, of course not.
And there was no follow-up questions to that story. When at the time when she told that, we were just like, that's fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how rude.
That's like straight up evil. Like, to do that to someone, like, there's no way that's
it's
your
awful.
First time doing it. And like, this is how you treat women.
Yes. Well, that's where when like she told that story, it was a realization of like, oh, no, money's power.
Yeah.
That's where you get your full power, because then you can make your decisions.
Yeah.
My livelihood is based on getting money from these guys. So you're actually in a powerless position.
Yeah. Which is hilarious.
But it's such an ignorant statement. And I feel like it's like, I think it's a wrong thing to throw out there for, I guess, a lot of women. You're like, I think it's powerful in the sense of like OnlyFans when you're in your own boundaries.
Yeah.
But I think when you're dealing with stuff like that, then it's not as powerful. Yeah.
Well, and I also just think like that's men thinking that, because it's not a power that they have to like be attractive, in a way that's just like, or I mean, not all men.
Yeah.
But, like women are lusted after, so much more regularly than men are, with so little context of just like, I see you, I want to fuck you.
Yes.
No, I know nothing else about you.
Yes.
And so I think they think that is powerful because they don't have it.
Yeah. Because I see that with a lot of guy comics that get upset with the girl, like the sexy girl comic aesthetic on Instagram. And I was like, you're just mad because you can't do it.
Yeah, I have a bit about that I'm like, the only reason that like fucking to the top is like looked down upon is because men can't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry that you can't like, fuck an old rich guy.
Yeah, to get like money or get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Although I always hear that too. And I'm like, I don't know any girls that are doing that like as their strategy,
at least
business
not
strategy.
Comedy, like,
and it's such a huge risk because
the people talk.
How do you fight that where you're like, I blew that exec and I never got work.
Yeah.
What HR is helping you in comedy with that?
Nobody.
Like everyone's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have blown him, thinking that you were like, he's not. Those people they don't value their word.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just go back on it.
Well, and it's also like, if you do something like that, you have to know it might not pan out.
Yeah.
So you're doing it like at risk.
It's a dangerous game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't even know who to blow in this industry.
Me. It's me. I've been keeping it to myself this whole time. I had a guy, I got catcalled yesterday, and it's like, I have a bit about like my best ones.
Yeah.
And I might add it to it. And he goes, excuse me. He goes like, hey, do you want a blowjob? And I was like, and he's like, it'll be free.
for me?
Yeah. He was like,
that's not a selling point.
I was like, what?
You're like, nobody wants free blowjobs.
And I tried to like reassess it and be like, was he asking me to give him one? But he really, like, it was definitely worded as though he was offering me one.
Yes.
And I was also like wearing a jacket. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even look sexy. And I was like, does he think I'm a man? And I was like, no, like that's not, you know, like I didn't have a hat on.
You should have had follow-up questions.
I mean, he was writing.
It deflates their cat calls.
He was on a bike, and there's just always the risk of like them
engaging,
coming over, because they're like, oh, you want to talk to me? And it's like, well, I'd really prefer if you stayed over there.
Yeah, it's kind of like a if you did do that, it'd be kind of like you fell for a pickup artist.
Yeah.
A weird negging.
Which no one ever says pickup artist anymore. That's so fun.
No, I guess I only say that because I just remember that show from VH1. Remember that guy that was
the
in
game.
Steampunk?
Oh, well, the
I can't. He always looked like he was dressed in steampunk, and I'm like, how is this guy pulling women? And
insecurity.
he would be like,
insecurity.
I know he would. Some of his tactics would be like, I wear goggles when I go out to the bar. You know, like those goggles that you put on your top hat.
Something to talk about.
Yeah, it would pull a woman in, and then you have something engage, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that shit works.
Was his name Mystery? Was he one of the guys from the book The Game?
It is Mystery. Andrea just confirmed. Yes. Don't you love that I remember that? That's like it's
crazy.
wild.
You were like, what's it? Before you were trying to figure out his name, I was like,
Yeah. That goofy ass
He had a moment.
Dude. And he was just like sleeping with, I mean, I hate referring to women this way, but like tens, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Just like,
oh god, no.
Oh my god, there he is. With the little chin scruff. What is that called?
Yeah,
soul patch. Also, when like white guys have soul patches, it's like, I don't know that you should get to use the word soul.
I know. There should be another terminology for white guy soul patches.
So tell me about your intervention.
Oh, yeah. So I guess it had gotten out. Another big reason too is like right before stripping, or how I got into it is that I moved on from drinking rehypnol's to coke.
Sure.
And that plays a huge part.
Yeah.
Like there's tons of coke in strip clubs.
Of course. I mean, I think they have like all the drugs, right?
I would find tons of coke on the floor.
Oh my god.
And those little like
so
button baggies.
That's thrilling.
I would joke about some of the most money I would make was I would just find money that would fall out of strippers' G-strings in the locker room. Because I would find like $20 bills from the girls that were pulling in like $1,000 a night. So I guess I was getting very relaxed about my drug use and like family members knowing, and I didn't really think of it as a big deal. But I guess there was one Thanksgiving I came to in the morning. I had gone out that night, and we put ourselves in I went out to this dance club called Riches on Thursday nights. It was the straight night. And a mix. It was always known as a gay club, but they let everybody in on straight night. Yeah.
That's really funny.
And it was great.
The idea of gatekeeping straight people out of somewhere. That's hilarious.
Well, Houston actually has a good gay scene, and they've had one for a really long time.
Sure, cowboys.
Yeah. I love it. But so I was So
you went out for straight night.
I went out for straight night, and I got so fucked up again on rehypnol's. I came home extremely late. I think I came out at like 5 a.m, and then I had to get up early. So I was in a stupor, and I was so rude. And I didn't think it was that noticeable, but I had an intervention shortly after. And I remember when you think back on those times, everyone's face, and it was just a face like this. You know when you don't register it at the time?
For the people listening, like it's a face of disgust.
Yeah, like it smells bad in here. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that kind of, it stinks. But when you're so out of it, you don't pick up on like social cues of reading the room.
Yeah.
So it made sense that they were in a place of disgust with me.
Right.
And then I remember it was like maybe a week later, I had just gone and got a bag of Coke. I came home and I saw all of my family members in a living room, which is
never a good feeling.
You know, when you see all of your family members on a random, like a regular day, that you're like, uh-oh, shit's about to happen.
You're like, hey guys,
yeah,
I gotta go upstairs
for a second.
Let me do a couple of lines before you ruin the rest of my life.
I felt bad. I actually threw away my Coke after.
Oh, really?
I wasn't at the point of addicted.
You were just having a good time.
I was just having a good time. I was getting doing extremely messy. Yeah. They had no idea about that.
Super cash.
super casual.
That sounds it all the date rape drug almost sounds like Quaaludes, I think.
Yeah, it's very like that. The other one that was a big one, GHB.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Never
and that
done
was
it.
in liquid form. That was
That's
really big
scary.
in Houston.
Yeah.
I remember, and people would do that recreationally.
Did you do that?
I never got involved in GHB, but I remember one time, you know, when you're doing drugs and then one day you're at a random apartment of like the big drug lord of Houston.
Sure.
With,
yeah,
like,
casual.
But there is a thing when you start doing drugs, it's fun. And then all of a sudden you kind of have an epiphany and it's always at a stranger's house. You're like, oh, I think I've crossed over and now I'm hanging out with the lowest people of society. And you're like, I'm not raised. This is not how I was.
These aren't like
My people.
My people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only because I'm doing this.
I was in Austin just getting wasted when I was down there for a week, just like doing shows and
Yeah.
whatever. And after the show, I just wastedly went to these people like drove me in their truck. Like it had to be 40 minutes away to like go party at their house. And I think they had coke at the time. I didn't do drugs yet, so I was like, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And I like made out with this chick who had a boyfriend, like who they were like, okay, you can't do this anymore. I don't even know how like I managed to get a ride back because it wasn't like an Uber. Like someone drove me back to the city. You know.
Nor do you know kind of like where you're at.
Yeah, not at all. Like they could have murdered me, and like I don't think they would have ever found me.
And it's always amazing when you're like, sometimes you're like, there must be a higher power because
Yeah.
I've made it home safely so many times
So
when I
many.
shouldn't have made it home.
When I didn't deserve it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was, as no one likes to say, fucking asking for murder.
Yeah.
like just like you can't ask for rape, but you can ask for murder. I think.
You just put yourself in so many dangerous situations. Like, yeah, there's tons of times like I would just be like in a trailer park with a guy that sold drugs, and I'd look over and then I knew there was a baby in the house because all of a sudden you're looking at the family photos.
Oh God.
And then there's like pit bulls fighting in the living room. There's always like fucked up shit happening. But when you're there, you're like, oh, this is just a Texas hang. Or you'd be like
Pit
talking to a
bulls
girl with like
fighting.
blood coming out of her nose.
Oh my God.
Those were like after I'd wait tables and then you go drink and
Yeah.
then
Then
you
do
just
drugs.
meet. Yeah, you would just do drugs.
Yeah. How old were you at this point?
I think I was still 18.
Oh man, you lived a lot.
18
at
to 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the intervention happened.
The intervention happened and then my parents
Did
were
they like
like
read you letters about how you were hurting them with your drug use?
Not so much because intervention hadn't hit the air yet, so it was a very loose, meaning like they didn't know what to do, but they knew they had to confront me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, you know, naming all the things that I had been up to. We found this. We know that you're doing this. Why are you doing this? And honestly, I can't tell you any reason why I was doing any of it.
What were the details that they're like? I mean, I'm assuming they found drugs.
They found I had a jug of wine in my closet. They found my
I guess you were 18, so you weren't
G-string.
supposed to be. Oh, they didn't know you didn't tell them you were stripping.
oh no.
Okay. I mean,
They had
yeah.
I would never tell them stuff like
so
that.
they found a G-string.
They found the G-string. I think they kind of suspected, and then they saw the like Rick's matchbook.
Oh boy.
I had a stash of things in my closet.
Yeah.
Also, I would do things while we were high in the house, thinking I was funny to my parents, and that's another one where I'd be like, my friend's putting on my guy friend just put on all my clothes, and he's gonna do like a fashion show for you. You're thinking like, oh, this is hilarious, but my parents are just like,
What's going on?
I don't know this person. Now you're
staging fashion shows with your parents.
It was just like, you just think it's, we think it's funny, so they're going to think it's funny. But then you're like, yeah, that's not their world.
They're not on coke right now.
Yeah. It's like a Wednesday night and my mom's making dinner. So you just, I'm like, wow, they were really weird. Like, we would go upstairs and be like, well, that didn't take as well as we thought it was going to be.
You're like, well, this one man
That
show
bombed.
really is. Yeah. Oh my god, your mom's like in the kitchen wearing an apron, and he's prancing through.
And they're so naive too. Like, my mom got married at 19. My dad was 24.
Yeah, my mom was 19 with her first husband. As
Yeah.
well.
And so that's her like first kind of, well, she had other boyfriends, but not serious like that.
Yeah.
And then like they moved from South Africa, which was really censored and kind of like, they tried to keep it. I mean, with the apartheid and all that stuff, that in their mind, they're thinking they're making it an innocent place, but it's like,
But really, it's a
fucked
nightmare.
up. Yeah, it's a nightmare. So they're coming from like a world that was very trying to like shelter and
Like
then,
almost like Pleasantville.
yes. And then they come over here and it's just like, it would blow their minds, some of the stuff that we were up to. Like my friend has stories, my friend that I'm still close with, who we always did drugs together. She, like, there would be stories of her hanging out in a random basement shooting guns into phone books.
Sorry, what? Excuse me.
It just ends up that way and it seems so normal and fun. It's like Jackass, but like with drugs. Like, and then in Texas, it's just like, I mean, I'm not going to just like say just because it's Texas.
Phone books?
Yeah, they were so thick. But it's just like, yeah, you're just
That
in
feels
this
very
world.
Texas.
Yeah,
that
where,
feels very like.
but I'm sure
stripper
the stuff
Texas.
like weird, crazy shit happens. These are just like murder stories that you hear. You're like, well, that's weird. How did that happen? You're like, I know exactly how this shit. They're fucked up.
Yeah.
That's all. It was a weird night.
Oh
yeah.
my god, yeah.
So it would just be like stories like that, and I kind of do miss. I don't miss the wildness, but I love talking about it because at the time you just accept it as
You think
normal.
it's so normal, yeah.
But because you're just doing drugs, you're like, we're just at a party and we're having fun. Like it just got wild.
Yeah, who doesn't go into the basement and shoot phone books with live round guns?
I remember she telling me that story and I was like, that's insane, but I
then,
love it.
Yeah, even then you knew it was crazy.
So crazy. We also lived together and there were times like I would still, this was way later when I stopped doing coke, kinda, and moved to drinking heavily. But I thought I was the responsible one because I didn't drink till 4 a.m. and she would just keep going.
Yeah.
And I would go to work and there would just be randos in our apartment, like watching porn while they're doing drugs. And I would be like, all right, I'm going to work.
Oh my god.
And then you're just like, yeah, it's just like a wild.
What was your job after you were a stripper? What was your
I
next
waited
job?
tables and
So
I
you
was
went
good at it.
Snow cones, stripping,
Waiting tables.
server. Yeah. You got to
And-
do the SSS. That's why.
Yes. And waiting tables is a great job if you're an alcoholic. It helps you. You can make decent money and you can function
Yeah.
of it. And
'Cause
then
you're
everybody
moving
else
around.
is also
It's physical.
alcoholics.
So you're like moving around.
Yeah. You burn it off.
Everyone else does it.
Yes.
Like
It's the norm.
it's like going to the gym, but you're getting paid.
Absolutely. And that was a hard job to quit that. It's a cycle of abuse.
Oh, sure.
And I know that it's not, but I'm just using it for comedic effect. Like I don't want to.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I still see what you mean though. Like if you're in a toxic environment, like that can be a form of abuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
well-
everyone's like buying into the lifestyle,
And it's
so,
accepted, and
Yeah, it's
you're with other
normalized.
people that are in the same boat as you, so you're all enabling each other.
exactly. That's the word I was looking
Yes.
for. Enablement.
And a lot of them are just like fun, but like it was. Quitting waiting tables was a really hard job for me to quit because I would try to do day jobs and I couldn't sustain it as an alcoholic because of the amount you just have to wake up early all the time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that. And also regular jobs don't pay anything
Yeah.
compared to bartending and waiting tables.
Oh, sure.
I would try to do an office job and then there was not even like, even if you got a promotion, it would just be 50 cents more an hour.
Yeah.
You're like, what's that going to do?
Yeah.
At least with waiting tables, I know I can pick up as many shifts as I want in order to get the money that I need.
Yeah. I mean, office jobs only start paying for real like once you've been doing it for like 10 years.
Yes.
And then you can make like a decent amount of money. Like,
Yeah.
Unless you're like we were saying like in sales, right? So like any form of sales, like stripping like regular sales, if you will.
Pharmaceuticals.
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
That's like stripper world
Mama
into
money.
office culture.
Yeah.
Because those girls they would always come into our restaurant because all they would do is just buy lunches for all the doctors.
Right.
And you start noticing you're like, they're all 22 and gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, oh,
What a
something's going on.
coincidence.
Yes.
I wonder how that happened.
It's never like some, average looking dude that's 35.
Those guys do it now. Like, I think,
Yeah.
I think that culture exists within like pharma now.
Yes. And those guys are also considered like really good salesmen. And they play the game of like, I'm going to be your buddy and play golf with you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Which is like having to work after hours. Like, ew.
I'm like, that's the impressiveness of sales. Like, you have to mask.
Yeah.
And I can't do that. It's tiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Andrew was talking about that too, of just like the having to be like fake and shallow with people.
It's too much.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with people that have that skill set. It's a very good skill set to have, but I don't have it, nor do I want to cultivate it.
No, not at all. Like, it's not fun.
No.
You know what I mean? And I think you either have that hustle in you where you're like, oh, I can't wait to make every fucking
I love meeting
penny.
people.
Yeah. Or not even just I love meeting people, but I love taking their money. You know what I mean?
Yes. Because I remember the first time I waited tables, the table gave me a tip and it felt so weird to me that I was like, oh, you guys don't have to do that. And then you're like, you idiot, that's your income.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
they have to do that.
Yeah. Especially in Texas, because your hourly wage was $2.13 an hour.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
You have to live on tips.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I just waited tables and I did that on and off for like 10 to 15 years, and I would try colleges in between regular jobs, and then it just never stuck as well as waiting tables. And then I finally got an office administrative job in a restaurant, and that helped me.
Like, is that where you like work for the owner?
I did the payroll. I made sure all the insurance policies were up to date.
So HR.
HR, really, yeah. And then
which is what I do during the day.
They let me come in at 10 a.m.
Yeah,
to make my own hours as long as I hit my marks.
Yeah, as long as you get shit done.
Yeah, so I could sustain that job for a few years while drinking heavily.
I think that's what we're going to call this episode, drinking heavily. That's Sarah's hot tip for staying hot is drinking regularly.
I know. It played such a huge part in my decision making until I got sober.
Like a decade.
Well, I remember moving here and looking at apartments on Craigslist and knowing that I was probably going to have to move in with strangers.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, how am I going to hide my drinking?
Oh my God.
With strangers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to have to figure this.
You're going to have to like keep it in your room.
Yes. But then I moved in with people that were part of the comedy community, and then game on.
You're like, oh, these, like, we're all going to be wasted all the time. It's fine.
Exactly. As long as
it's like a frat.
Yeah. It was fine. And that lasted for a year.
Who did you live with?
I lived with, you're going to love this one. My first roommate in New York was Aaron Glazer.
Really?
The alleged rapist.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you should say that in front of
rapist.
it, just like for your own like lawsuit
purposes.
Can you imagine if he somehow listened to this podcast? That's like hilarious.
Who knows? I always think I'm going to run into him because I got along with him really well, but looking back, he did have some weird tendencies.
I wrote with him one time, like at his apartment. He didn't try anything, but I think, and this is like so problematic to say, but I do believe it. I do not give off the energy of someone that you're going to get away with anything. Like, I think that men can tell. It's like, if I cross her boundaries at all, she's going to make my life a living fucking nightmare.
Yeah, I definitely think men choose. Perpetrators of sexual assault definitely choose their victims and know who to choose.
Yeah.
I think my age and I was 10 years older than he was.
He just knew better.
I think when you hit around 30, not all 30-year-olds, but at that moment I didn't preen for, is that the right word? For male attention. I just got out of a relationship and all I wanted to do was focus on stand up.
Yeah.
And I was pretty good at that point knowing how to assert boundaries.
It's also like, I mean, raping your roommate isn't not very smart either. Like,
good point. Don't rape where you sleep, my friend.
yeah. I mean, yeah, don't rape where you shit.
Exactly.
Like that would be, I'm sure it's happened, but like that would be so psychotic to do that, to be like, I'm going to rape you and then I'll see you in the morning in the kitchen.
But, you know, like when I look back, and it probably has nothing to do with it, but were incidences that he had that I was like, that felt really entitled, which kind of feels like.
Oh, he was super entitled.
The mindset of like thinking what he's doing is right.
Yeah.
Where like he would just eat my food, like a meal that I made, he would just eat it. Or like he would never go out for a day job because he always thought he should be some kind of like comedic genius already.
Yeah.
And then he would always be like trying to pick my brain about stand up, and you'd be like, yeah, you just have to do when people are like, can I pick your brain? That means they're like, will you give me all the shortcuts?
Yeah. Give me the fast track.
Because whenever you're like, yeah, you just have to go to open mics for years.
Yeah.
They never want to do it.
I mean, nobody wants to do it. You just do it anyway.
Well, because, you have to.
Yeah.
At that time you did. I don't think so as much now.
Well, but that's also because we're not like new to it. Like you have enough of like a grasp of like if something's funny that you just try it at a show and it works or it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like, God, going to those now is... You just feel like tired and old. You know what I mean? You're like, am I really going to get out of the house at like 5 p.m. to like...
to do 2 minutes, to like, an hour away from where I live?
Yeah, like go throw your name in a bucket and then go at the end when everyone's left because it's only comics in the audience anyway.
No,
like,
and now I think it's just beneficial to just do those 2 minutes on your phone and project it out to the world.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, sometimes I think there's some stuff that just... I just burped. Are just a waste of time now.
Yeah.
I think you still have to work on your craft a little bit if you want to be a good stand-up, but it's not about being a good stand-up if you want to just have sellout shows and do well.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly no.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's annoying. You have to have a podcast.
You have to I miss the days of like, can't we just go back to getting discovered?
Yeah.
Again? Like nobody.
Yeah, but when people got discovered, it was like men.
True.
So that's the downside to that. They're like, I found this man, and you're like, that's so crazy. How did you manage to do that?
Yeah, I know. Or it's just like a leg up from their man peers.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, that's still such a big thing.
It is. That's why when people, I get it, because people are like tribal, I guess, and like only want to hire their friends, and like guys don't really. I know this is a generalized statement, but I do think like guys only like to hang out with other men. And this is an original thought, but I do think the gayest people on earth are hetero men.
I mean, you're not wrong at all.
Yeah.
They just all want to hang out with each other.
They love each other.
Gab.
And support.
Yeah.
I get so jealous because I don't really see that going on a lot in the female community.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like for a long time, a lot of female headliners still are bringing men on the road with them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think at least when I like I remember that they wouldn't let Nikki Glazer bring Sarah Schaefer to like some like clubs because they're like, well, we can't have two women.
Oh,
like,
I know.
That's crazy.
I did Laugh Boston a few years ago, like a showcase show at Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
The club owner there wanted to put a man comic between Kelly McFarland and I, and she's a fucking killer. And I want to say I do pretty consistent. I'm consistent that it was like, what?
Yeah, you're hilarious.
Even the audience isn't thinking this.
Yeah.
And if there is, it's just one guy.
Yeah.
Who's like a loser, and it doesn't matter.
And like, he's listening to this podcast right now.
He's like, your number one fan.
Me.
But I generally feel like the audience isn't like, oh my God, two
can't-
women back to back. What
It's
is
just-
this?
I mean, it happens, but it's like I don't think.
can we weed those guys out?
I don't think it's consistent enough that like people are noticing that. I think 10 years ago maybe,
Yeah.
but you also feel like when you are the only woman on the show, you feel like Andrea and I were talking about this. You feel so much pressure to do well because you have to represent the entire female stand-up community.
Yeah, you definitely feel like when you bomb on I did one the other day. I was the only girl on the showcase. And you're like, oh, fuck, you know?
Yeah.
I was the last one. I was like, can you kind of like bury me in the...
Yeah, can I be in the middle? And it's also like, you know, afterward when they're like, I liked the girl. And you're like, oh, God, like, I hate everything about that. A, I'm a woman. B, like, you're saying that like you're special, that you feel that way and that it was different. And C, it's always women that say that. You know what I mean?
It is. And then you feel like you're like have a disability when you pick up on that vibe when they're like you know, when it's like fawning in a weird way, and I don't feel like it feels authentic, and then it makes me feel like, oh, I think they're just saying this because it's nice.
They want to be supportive.
Yeah, they want to be supportive, but I don't care about that. I want you to think I'm legitimately funny, and they might do, but it doesn't come off that way to me sometimes.
I think part of that is also just that we get so much in our fucking heads. Like, I think men get a compliment and they're like, thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just move on with their fucking day. And we're like, well, but did she really mean it?
Yeah,
like on what level does she respect? Like last night, this woman, and she was so fucking wasted, so it didn't matter. She said something super rude to another comic. I'll tell you after. It's
okay.
It was just really mean. But she was like, so much respect. And I was like, I don't know if I feel like that's a compliment. Like,
it's not
like that sounds like you were like, oh, it's so good that you can endure being on stage.
Yeah, taking this abuse, or it almost feels like you're still taking your clothes off. You know what I mean? In a weird way, like you're so brave to show your tits like that.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like a compliment, as you said. Yeah. And you just pick up on that and you're like, it is kind of like still misogynist.
Yeah. Well, and I will say the one thing, and I don't do enough like shows in like across the country, to compare, but I mean, 10 years ago, it was like, I don't normally find, female comedians funny, but you were funny. And I haven't heard that in a long time, which I love. And
I've heard that from women.
I haven't heard that in a long time. Just for caveat, because I'm not funny, but
you're funny.
I appreciate that, but it is still a fun bit.
I was talking about this online though. Like, I actually, you can tell when your video is doing really well because you start, or I think around the 10,000 view mark. That's when you get the men hate.
Yeah,
and it's just. I think it's a sign of success, honestly.
Oh, it totally is, but it's like, it would be nice to have to not endure abuse, to be successful.
I'm like, well, at least I've always said you want to be so horrifically bad or really good, but you don't want to be in between.
Yeah.
Because you want to be memorable. Yeah.
A guy... I thought this one was really subtle, so I liked it. And he's like, you should check out your local newspaper for job ads.
So yeah, some of them are really funny. One was like, this one sounds like she's about to kill herself. And I'm like, well, you're not completely wrong.
Did you respond back and say that?
I didn't respond, but I just like some comments you're just like, that is really funny. And you nailed it.
I used to come back like with vitriol because like I'm good at clapping back. I mean, we're stand-ups, you know what I mean? Like, you know how to quip. But now I just reply back enthusiastically that I'm on their side. So I replied back and I was like, thanks for the tip.
Yeah.
And then they always go away.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get what they wanted out of it, which is so much more satisfying.
Exactly.
Than being like, I don't have to look in my local paper for job ads because I make so much more money than
you do.
You know what I mean?
It is I think that's a way better tactic to handle online hate.
Yeah. I think it really they give up, and I also like to think it bothers them because they're like, I really thought I was going to hurt her feelings, and she's on board with it. Like, they're so confused.
And you're like, you're actually helping me every time you comment on my videos.
That's what I used to say. I'd be like, thanks so much for upping me on the algorithm.
I know. You just want a debate whether you are funny
Yeah.
rather than being funny.
Which is like it's just all so fucked up. You're like, yeah, I'd love to like fuck with my ego and my self-esteem because it might help my career like this much.
Yeah. I
like
know.
just a scotch.
But I do feel like in order to be successful, you do need haters.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's not good if you have no haters.
Yeah.
You want to be polarizing, I think.
I have seen like, you know, occasionally when you'll go to like a female stand-up's like YouTube video and the comments are all positive underneath or like the first few and you're like, hey, there's some hope out there. And then you're like, I'm never going to be as funny as her that like there's no men mad at me.
I know. No, you do want some people upset with you.
Yeah.
I think. But like YouTube's crazy because if you look at the analytics of YouTube, it's all men.
And I mean, everyone's going to YouTube now. Like, this is going to be so fun for our listeners. Like the inside track on how to get their comedy videos going. But like, people are going back to YouTube. Like, they're leaving Twitter. I don't know about TikTok, but people say that like people are leaving TikTok too.
I think TikTok will be around unless they ban it in the US. But like, I got some kind of insider information. I've heard that the top 50 specials, I think there's a few that are out of this demographic. The top 50 specials in the last year or so, they were either Netflix or YouTube. And I think Nate Bargatze's on Amazon is one of the exceptions.
Yeah. Well, because it's Nate.
Yeah. And then when you're a clean comic, you can do everything. That's the ultimate.
I mean, you can make so much money doing corporate gigs and stuff.
You got the Americans that are like, I just want some comedy that won't offend my lord, you know? And they deserve comedy too. They're a little frustrating, but like, of course, they deserve clean comedy.
Yeah, I'm not for them.
Yeah.
I'm doing a clean show on Wednesday and I'm like, fuck.
Oh my God. You always think that you're like, I'm not that bad. And then you do a corporate gig and you're like, oh, I got to cut that. You only realize once you start doing the joke, you're like, I actually can't do that joke.
And you're like, okay, you know what? Can I start over?
You're like, I shouldn't have picked up on this gig.
But it's so much money.
It is. And then it's just a cash grab. Yeah. And then I'm always like, this is on you guys, not my fault.
You guys are dumb. You didn't look at my Instagram at all.
I know. It is. It's wild. That's like the other thing too is like people that blindly go to shows without looking up the comic.
I can't. It's like my friend used to say, like, she'd be like, that's like going to a musical concert and like not looking up the artist that you're going to see.
It's wild. And then it's even, I think, worse in stand-up because like we do say things that might really trigger people.
Totally.
That I'm like, if that's your mindset, and if you didn't do the research, like you're not going to have a good time on the show. And that's like your fault.
And people also just get like rubbed the wrong way. Like in weird, like I was on a show with Lori Kilmartin, like friend of the pod. I always say that no matter who gets brought up. Like Aaron Glazer, friend of the pod.
Huge listener.
But like Lori, and she did some joke about abortion. I wasn't in the room, but I'm sure it was good. She's great.
Yeah, she's a talented joke writer.
Yeah. And I had also done a joke about abortion, and this woman comes out, and Lori's like on her way out because she's, just done her spot. She's ready to go. And like this woman, like not even talking directly to Lori is like, we're leaving. Abortions aren't funny. And then she looks at me and she was like, you were so funny. And I was like, I was so confused.
It's because,
and Lori, like, then she tried to say something to Lori and Lori was like, cool, great. Like, or whatever, whatever rude thing she was saying to her. But it's like, how dumb are you? Like, you didn't even, like, I also talked about that. Like, and to me, that's like I remind you of someone you like in your life or something like that, or she reminds you of someone you don't like in your life. And that's what this is actually about.
Yes. Well, you see that all the time with like bookers, where they're like, they're upset that they're like, I don't have her because she's so dirty. And then they have another comic.
Yeah, it's so dirty.
And then you're like, so they don't actually have I don't want to say ethics, but like
a standard.
A standard. Everybody's graded so differently. Like I do get annoyed, and this is in the abortion area with jokes.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely get to see a woman get away with doing a great abortion joke. I feel like they let men do abortion jokes.
Oh, totally.
And for some reason, when we do it, we're like hateful or like shitty about it, even though it's
they're mad
really
'cause
our
we're
issue.
the murderers.
Yeah.
You know, we're the ones going out and myrtleizing.
I know.
Which as a child I thought was a real word, just for the record. Yeah. No, the front row of my show last night were they were Texans. And the woman, she went out of the room because she had to take a phone call.
Yeah.
And the husband was like, "Oh yeah, she's running for city council," and they were from Texas. And I was like, like, you know. So she comes back, and I was like, "So what are the topics that you're running on? You know, like,
yeah,
and
just to get a feel."
And she was like, "I'm here to advocate for the citizens." And I was like, "This is gonna be bad." Like, and she kept going, and I was like, "So what's your ultimate goal? Like, you trying to take down like Ted Cruz and take it?" And she's like, "I would never do that to Ted Cruz. I love Ted Cruz."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh boy."
Yeah,
like,
you kind of know where they stand on that. It is just like frustrating. Because that's where you're like, I only want to perform to my fans
Yeah.
for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you can't change people's mind, and you're
Yeah.
never going to change people's mind with a joke. And I understand that, and so I just want to like preach to the choir in that situation.
Oh, totally.
And hope that people will change their mind about
Well, and
issues on their own.
As soon as I switched off of that, I immediately did an abortion joke. I was like, this is going to be so fun. And I will say, like, they stayed, they were smiling and laughing. And like, I will say that for conservatives is like, if they think something's funny, they'll fucking laugh at it. Like, they're not there to like Michael Che's joke or whatever. He's like, oh, liberals are the only people that like get offended on behalf of like, people that aren't in the room.
It does feel that way.
It's true. They're
yeah,
just like,
it's a little annoying where you're like, why are you getting offended? Because you're not even like the butt of the joke here.
yeah.
And maybe that group doesn't need you to be a rep. You know what I mean? Like, I think they're fine on their own.
They didn't ask for your
Yes.
for your approval.
Well, there's times like on Facebook I've seen where you're like, I disagree with what this person's saying, but you're like, I don't really feel like it's my place to say it. And then another person that I feel is more comfortable to say it actually shares the same opinion. And I was like, oh, good. I didn't have to say it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's
You took
another
care of it.
Yeah, they took care of it. And it was, I don't feel like that way I could just walk away and not be confrontational, but I don't think they would have liked the message from me. And that's fine.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think that's sort of like, you know, like you want to think you're like growing as a person or whatever, like, and getting less angry and being more patient and all those things that you're not doing. It's just that you're getting tired. So you just do less of it because you're like, I don't have it in me today.
I don't feel like fighting. It's also like,
but then also like you can see it with the comments, right? Like 5 years ago, I would never have been able to not like clap back at someone with like a mean comment.
yeah.
And now I will do what I said, right? Like I'll like their comment and be like, totally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Thank
fuck
you.
me. Yeah, or whatever.
Or just
And
block.
but you also, I don't even bother blocking because they 100% of the time they do not come back if I agree with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want to hate like my feed, that's fine. But I don't feel like worked up afterward at all when I do that.
Exactly.
I'm able to immediately let it go because it's like, you know, after you like say the thing you wanted to say to the person you wanted to say it to, and then you just keep going back in your mind,
And
like
then they
thinking
kind of
about
have
it.
a clap back.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
just
oh my God.
how long do I
now
have to do this?
It gets you riled up.
Yeah.
And then you've wasted your whole afternoon on someone that I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's so pointless.
Someone in the street, like it doesn't even matter. Like just, or even when you get into an argument with a friend and you're like trying to make your points and then you go back later and you're like, oh, I forgot to make this point. Like,
I know.
And you're like, is there a way for me to bring this up in text that's going to be natural?
Can I bait them again? How am I going to do this? I just keep telling myself a lot of it's just like ego.
Yeah.
And I don't need to interject my opinion. Also, another quote I live by, it's a tweet from RuPaul, who is now one of my spiritual gurus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think he has wisdom
Yes.
that I like. And I'll just summarize the tweet because I don't know it word for word, but it was just basically like,
Word for word or not at all, Sarah.
it's something about like, when you're talking to somebody stupid, just walk away. And that's just like what you consider stupid. Like he's like, you're not going to change their mind.
Yeah.
Just walk away because
Yeah.
you're wasting your time and energy on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I just think it's just a waste of time. Like I had this lady, I was doing Go Bananas in Cincinnati, and it was right when Roe v. Wade got overturned to states' rights.
Oh God.
And I didn't have any material because it was day of, and there was a journalist in the audience. And she tweeted at me the next day and was kind of shaming me for not talking about it. First of all, that weekend was tough.
It is your job to like speak for all women at all times.
But like wild of her to tell me how to run my life.
Yeah.
Where you're like, you kind of miss the message of kind of like, my joke is just like my set, my choice.
Yeah.
But like, am I really going to make a difference at a place called Go Bananas? And I'm already kind of eating it for the week because it's just like 10 people are showing up to my shows.
Yeah.
So I'm trying my best just to keep it.
Just to get through it.
So I'm not
hope
going to come out with a rough abortion joke.
Did you, day of, did you respond back and be like, can you not tell me how to live my life?
I did. I just told her my set, my choice.
Haha. What'd you say?
She didn't respond, and then Joe got annoyed with it, and he chimed, and she was just like, oh, her quip was funnier or something like that. But it was
I
just,
love that.
I just found her so annoying that I'm like, you're making me want to go to the right now because you're such a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just like, I mean, just the ignorance of doing that, in a situation that's about like women making their own choices is so funny. There's
wild.
There's a bit in there. Like,
it is. Well, I've been doing it now, just talking about like, it's just wild to have a conversation about abortion at a place called Go Bananas. In Cincinnati, like you're fucking out of your mind, lady.
If you don't have a bit about that yet, like that's your next bit for sure. Be like, I did an abortion symposium like at Go Bananas in Cincinnati.
And she's the one that wants it, so we're on the same side.
Well, and I bet you I wonder if she literally showed up to your show because she's like, ooh, a female comic the day that, or if she was just going to go anyway. Like that's a curiosity to me.
It is a curiosity. Like I have no idea what her intentions, and I just thought it was absolutely rude to try to shame me for not having. Also, I just don't work that way.
Don't worry, I had an abortion right after my set. Like what?
I know.
What did you want from me?
I know exactly. Like I just feel like for a journalist, I was like, you're pretty stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just walk away, RuPaul style.
Yeah. Well, I blocked her.
Yeah.
I was really
coming.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then you're like, how does she have a blue check mark with 2,000 people? This is before
because she's a journalist.
Yeah. I forget that they have that. And then you look, she's only written 1 or 2 articles.
It's not that hard to get a blue check mark. Like even like all you have to do is like prove who you are, and then I think like provide some kind of credit. Like
I've tried that so many times on Instagram, and they hurt my feelings over and over again.
I have not tried because I just feel like I don't have enough followers that it doesn't just kind of look a little desperate that I'm like, I'm blue check mark. And I know it doesn't matter. Like, God bless. Everyone should just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit?
I think it's actually punk rock to not have a blue check mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm super punk rock. People always say that about me. They're
You're
like,
so punk
Maria,
rock.
so punk rock. Like, so steampunk rock.
Yeah.
I'm mystery too.
No, yeah. It's sometimes it's just wild. It's like I do sometimes let things like that affect. I'm like, God, how's this person a blue check mark and they only have 2,000 followers on Instagram?
Yeah. I don't care about that at all. I just care about the followers. And I don't want to care about that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be
well,
that
it's
guy,
pointless
but
for
it's
sure.
like,
But you're like, I need to
cool.
win.
Let's just jump off a bridge.
Everything's on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So live your life.
I do use that to comfort myself that I'm like, I'm probably never going to make all of my money from doing stand up or from being a comedian, but I will have a retirement fund that a lot of comics will never have, which is such a hateful, like, haha, I'm going to survive it. You're not.
You're going to die in obscurity and poor. It's true though. It is why, I do think about that but then I just make myself feel better and it feels pretentious to be like, well, you're just like an artist in New York City, and that's the life that you chose. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I can kind of do both.
Yeah. Well, it's smarter to do that way. There are times where you're like, you don't need to quit your job and your day job.
I mean, I think at some point though, like you have to give up. You don't want to be like 50 doing like 2 spots at New York a week, you know.
I think it's still more admirable to have a day job than it is to live off of mommy and daddy.
Oh, sure. I mean, I'd love to be able to do that. I just don't have that opportunity. Oh, totally. I'd be like, let's go. Come on.
But that's like I put internal like shame on myself when I've like worked a day job so long in stand up, and I still need supplemental income from stand up. So I do like other people's social media.
Sure.
And that's easier because that's a job that is like kind of flexible for me, but I'll shame myself, but I still think this is still more admirable than being, in my 40s living off my parents' money.
But again, would love to do that if it were an option.
I always think of Lady Gaga. Her parents like produced or gave all the money for her first album. And I was like, oh my God, if my parents gave me money in my early 20s, that would have been the worst business decision they've ever made in their entire life.
Start your own strip club.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know. It would be so bad.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I would be embarrassed.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up.
Okay.
I could keep talking to you for another hour, but
Definitely.
I've got Micah coming, so
yeah,
got to do my next guest.
Okay.
Among all us gal pals. Sarah, you're the best. Thank you so much for coming. We did a lot of inside baseball, which normally we don't do on the pod, which I think is kind of fun.
Yeah, I think people like to hear it. You've gone too far when you're talking analytics. That's when you have to draw it back. Yeah. The
clip is going to be like for other comics. Like it's not even like regular people are going to be like, I don't even know what they're talking about.
It's so brutal. And these days I have to be mindful, even in comic hangs, to like not talk about reels.
Yeah.
People don't understand it's such a huge part of our life now.
Yep.
It's awful.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Andrea just sighed too, with like a collective sigh of dealing with reels.
I'm doing more administrative work in stand-up than I am doing actual like creative work.
Yeah.
I hate it.
You're at home being like, how do I get more followers so that I can like sell out?
I'm like researching search engine optimization, keywords, like trying to think that I've figured out the back door.
We're in advertising now.
We are in advertising. We're copywriting.
It's crazy.
Although I've been using ChatGPT for my captions.
I have no idea what that means.
It's the AI.
Oh.
Yeah. I type in, give me 10 strong Instagram captions and then I say the gist of my joke.
Sure.
And then it takes away the mindset of putting effort into it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good.
I get stuck.
On that note, well, actually, this is probably a great time to admit to our listeners that we are both AI generated comedians. We're not real. This whole time, you've just been looking at like people with like the curated flaws so that we look real.
Yes, we are AI. I have tried. I was writing a script and I needed a quick joke and I put one in there and you're like, not bad, and I didn't have to waste an hour to figure out a bit that would work in this.
Yeah.
No,
I was struggling with that too because I have a bit, or it's a it doesn't matter. Anyway, I had to come up with a joke for a script. And I was trying to like look through my jokes to be like, what would
like tweets and like
what would make sense as like a last line, that just like hits, and waka waka waka, kind of fucking stupid.
The mic drop. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know. That's a funny chat prompt to be like, give me a joke that's a mic drop.
Yeah. Oh my God. But anyway, thank you so much for doing the pod.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Tell them where they can find you again on the internet.
You can find me on every kind of social media platform that you can think of. And then my handle is just at Tollemache, STOLLEMACHE. And I really probably need you more on Instagram or subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yes. Go do those things for Sarah. She's worth it. She deserves it. She's very funny. And I'm Maria Heinegg, MariaHeinegg, and then we'll plug Gracie's, even though she's not here because I'm an amazing co-host.
Yes.
You can find
You're
her
a giver.
at Save Gracie Canaan, SaveGracieCanaan. Nailed it. Love you, Gracie. And that's been the pod. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.